To be like the second time you've seen us today, it's because it is. We had some technical difficulties earlier, but here we are, ready to have our show. Thank you so much, Zach, for producing today and for getting all that stuff right. My name is Troy Torres with Kandit News here on the 7th floor of the DNA building in Hagåtña, Guam. And we're very pleased to have my very good friend and sister, the president of the Todu Guam Foundation, Lena Calvo-Rodriguez.
Good day, Troy. Thank you for having us.
Buenas, thank you so much. Don't forget to tell your mom and dad that I did the rosary today.
I will. That was nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And Lena and her husband, Dennis, brought National Suicide Prevention Advocate Kevin Hines to Guam. Mr. Hines, Kevin, may I? Half a day. May I call you Kevin?
Of course.
And please call me Troy.
Troy, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't even think we remember my last name. It's okay.
Torres. I got it.
Thanks. Can we just get right into it?
Of course.
Coming to a place like Guam, you were talking earlier about how you thought the island was so nice and the people here are so nice. Would it be surprising to you to know that we have a very high rate of suicide?
Not in the least bit.
Why is that?
Traveled around the world, shared stories, and when you share your story, people share you theirs. And all around the world, everywhere I go, one thing is abundantly clear. Pain is universal.
So there's nothing, there are these cultural barriers and all that stuff.
Cultural barriers, cultural differences. It's not the same.
Okay.
Everybody's pain is different for them, for those people. But the common denominator of pain is that you find people everywhere that succumb to it. They can't cope with it. And they feel that they can't survive it. So my goal, our goal, is to help Guamanians learn how to cope with, survive their pain, and then find a way to thrive. It's not easy, given certain cultural backgrounds, histories, ancestral issues, certain things like when you have your traumatic history, traumatic family history, that's passed on generational trauma. And that happens all around the world. And people neglect to think that matters. The one thing I see with brain pain, I call it brain pain. We call it mental illness, right? Everyone does. We're conditioned to. People are mentally ill. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you wanted to be labeled mental?
I guess never.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody does. So
it
carries an automatic discrimination.
Not a stigma.
Well, we call it stigma, and that's another thing, mental and stigma. We call it that all around the world. And I get it, and I still use those terms because that's what people are used to. What I'm just saying is that if we call it mental and we call it stigma, those are not enough. Language matters. And I try not to call it mental anymore. I try to call it brain pain. Your brain is an organ just like every other organ in the body, and it too can become diseased. But what happens when you have brain pain?
It's like our most vital organ because
it's the most vital organ.
Regulates everything else.
It's the most powerful organ you wield. It controls every action, inaction you take, every decision, indecision. For lack of a better way of saying it, if your brain is malfunctioning, there goes the rest of you.
Someone once told me, if we can go to the doctor to fix every other part of us, if we get a big cut or something's wrong with our heart or our kidney, our livers, our skin, why don't we want to go to the doctor to fix our brain? And I thought that's pretty powerful.
And we go there without shame. We go there without fear of telling another family member that we're hurting that way. Because it's visible. It's physical. They know it's real. Right? But when someone you first recognize has brain pain, those around them, if they don't comprehend, understand, or empathize, they invalidate that pain.
And some people laugh at it.
They laugh at it.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's becoming less of that.
Yeah.
I think here, there's more empathy for the issues people face, and I think that comes with education. Lena, I wanted to ask, why did you? I see now, after the first 2 minutes of listening to this guy and the conversations we have with you and your lovely wife, Margaret, over at lunch. That was a beautiful lunch, by the way. Shout out to Jezere and Christiana, who were there.
They're partners. So, we invited our nonprofit organizations and also Guam Behavioral Health, who partnered with us to have him here today.
I can see why you and Dennis, for the past 8 years, have been trying to bring him to Guam.
Right. I'm sorry. Sorry it took so long.
Hey, better late than never.
Right. Yeah, come on.
We've got to take you to the CNMI, and we're going to talk more about
the CNMI, yes. Let's talk about that
in a bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So what was it that first attracted you guys to the story, and what was it about Guam that you thought he needs to come here?
So 8 years ago, Dennis attended a conference in D.C., and he was the speaker. He actually attended the conference with Guam Behavioral Health at the time when he was working at the legislature.
Okay.
And he had heard him, and I was just on the trip with him, but I didn't attend the conference. So I remember him coming out after, and he was just like, we're bringing this guy to Guam. He's just such a powerful speaker, and he was trying to get your book. It was sold out. He couldn't, but he made sure to stay in the line to tell you I want you to come to Guam. And his wife is half Filipino, right? So automatic connection, right? Right? Yeah. So automatic connection. Where's your boyfriend from? Right? And he had been talking to Margaret on and off all the time, and I think probably 4 years ago that he was almost going to come. Yeah. And then he had canceled because, of course, he was getting an award from Barack Obama at the time, right, the president. So
yeah,
yeah. It was okay, we understand.
Something
right?
small, something small.
Yeah, so, we can't compete. And then, in 2020, last year in 2022, we started a behavioral health component to our organization, which is the Todu Foundation. The Todu Foundation, which is the CARES program. It stands for Community Approach to Resiliency for Education and Students. And through that program, it opened a whole new world for us, really, because, we service this same population through the mobile medical clinic. And we started to understand the needs of the students. And if COVID taught us something, is that mental health doesn't have any discrimination. And so we saw the need in this population, and we were able to execute a program through it. But it's just, there's so much need, and the availability of services are so few. And so we were talking one day, and he was like, let me reach back out to Margaret and see, because we start to see how statistics are. We have to plan, right? You want to have a roadmap and see okay, where the successes are going to go, but what are the tools we need? And it was just a resource. It's a great resource for our island and for our students. And so we've taken him around. He's been here since Sunday night, but starting Monday, Tuesday, and today, and he hasn't had time to touch the water because we've just maximized his time here. And so we've taken him to a couple of the high schools and middle schools, and the impact, I think, has been so great. And I would tell him, I say, even how you can see that we're just touching a few here and there, but the response we get back from those touch points has been pretty great. I think it's just been a great thing overall.
Before I ask you to tell your story about what happened in 2000, I'd like to ask for your answer. I think that this would be just such a great resource for really anyone who comes across someone who has a suicidal tendency, or do they call it ideation?
Ideation, tendency. You have the right word.
Okay. And so I'll bifurcate the question. The first would be, what do you say to or do for a person who you strongly suspect wants to die by suicide? And this is the second part, the bifurcated part. What do you say to or do for a person who just outright says, I want to commit suicide?
So what I would say to them, to someone who is visibly suicidal, I would say, stop. Breathe. In 4 through the nose, out 8 seconds through lips, pursed lips like a whistle but no sound. Do that 30 more times. It's going to lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate, lower a panic, a stress, anxiety attack, quell an adrenaline rush, lower your blood sugar over time. Just breathe. Hear me when I say this. Your thoughts do not have to become your actions. They can simply be your thoughts. Just because you're in a world of pain today does not mean you don't get to have a beautiful tomorrow. But you have to be here to get there in the first place. We're all going to die. We haven't cracked the code to immortality. Every one of us is going to pass away. We live and we die. Give yourself time plus hard work for things to change. And finally, we have a 1 in 400 trillionth of a chance to be birthed into this world. Every one of us has had a 1 in 400 trillionth of a chance to simply be. That means you're meant to be here until your natural end, never to die by your hands. We weren't born into existence from the cavemen to now. We weren't born into existence to take our lives. That was not our purpose. Pain comes for all of us if it hasn't already. Do the work, put in the effort, build the self-awareness techniques to survive your pain so someday, like me, you can thrive.
I'm going to have to push back you, asking you to tell your story because it's such an interesting thing that you just said. I've never myself, seriously thought about dying by suicide. Is that, I don't know, lucky for me, right?
Yeah.
But, of course, I've had my struggles in life. I've suffered, and I've cried about things, and I thought, even for a split second, like, I want this to end. But, it never... It took me a very long time to understand that everything in life is a blessing, including suffering. I'm almost 43 years old.
Yeah.
It took me until just like a month ago to realize that. How do you explain that to someone, that the suffering, that the pain, it's part of it, and it has purpose, and it is a blessing?
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
We were talking about this in the car. And just for your audience who doesn't know, I, at 19, because of bipolar depression, the same depression both my biological parents had before me, genetically predisposed twice, I leapt off the most frequented spot for suicide in the world, the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, California.
How tall, like, for people who've never been there?
At the point where I leapt off, it's a 250-foot drop to the water.
25 stories.
25 stories.
So that's like leaping off the...
it's like the Empire State Building.
Two times the Hilton Hotel on Guam.
Right.
3 times?
3 times this building that we're in right now, the DNA building in Agania. Yeah.
25 stories, 80 miles per hour falling, closing on the speed of terminal velocity, praying on the way down that I would live.
Why is that?
Because I was blinded by the suicidal ideation. I didn't know my thoughts didn't have to become my actions back then.
The second that you left, that was
no, the millisecond. The millisecond my hands left the rail and my legs cleared it, instantaneous regret for my actions. All around the world where people have attempted to die by suicide and survived of means that were moderate, mild to overt, thousands of people, potentially more, have recounted instantaneous regret from their attempts because they recognized in the moment they thought it was too late that their thoughts didn't have to become their actions. And I fell those 250 feet praying on the way down that I would live. The depression was wiped from my mind. The auditory hallucinations I was hearing were gone that were telling me I had to die. Psychosis. All I wanted to do was live. Fight or flight mode, and I was fighting. Hit that water like a ton of bricks. You hit that water from that height at that speed like hitting a solid brick wall. Impact reverberated through my legs, shattered my T12, L1, L2 lower vertebrae into shards like glass, missed severing my spinal cord by 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters away from certain death. That changes a man if he gets the privilege of surviving. Went down 70 feet in the water, opened my eyes, and I was drowning. Didn't want to drown. Why'd you jump into a giant body of water? Irrational, illogical thought processes lead to suicidal crisis, not the other way around.
How did you get up that 70? How did you get to the surface?
I couldn't feel my legs. They were working. I swam as fast as my arms would take me. It was the fastest I'd ever swum in my life because all I wanted to do was live.
Despite the pain.
Oh, my God. Upon hitting the water, an implosion of pain in my insides. It was the most physical pain I'd ever experienced up till that point. I swam as fast as my arms would take me. I got closer and closer to the lit circle of water above me, and I thought I wasn't going to make it. I started to convulse. My head started going back. My eyes started rolling in the back of my head. And I vividly remember thinking, I cannot die here. If I die here, no one will ever know I didn't want to. No one will ever know I knew I made a mistake. Broke the surface of the water, bobbed up and down in it, and did the one thing I've had control over since kindergarten. I prayed. God, please save me. I don't want to die. God, please save me. I don't want to die. I made a mistake. And he heard me. A woman driving by in a red car at the moment of my attempt saw me go over the rail, called her friend from her car phone, year 2000. It was a car phone, not cell phone. Called her friend from her car phone, who was in the United States Coast Guard, manning the waters of the bridge at that moment. The singular reason the Coast Guard boat got to my position in the water before I was to set in hypothermia and drown, that woman's phone call. Miracle number 1. Miracle number 2. I kept going down in the water. My boots were waterlogged, long sleeve clothing was heavy. I couldn't stay above water. I go down one more time. I think this is it. This is where I die. Nobody is going to know I didn't want to. What have I just done? And that's when something very large and very slimy and very alive begins circling beneath me. And I remember going, you got to be kidding me. It's a great white breeding ground. I was like, I didn't die jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and a shark is going to eat me. Perfect. That's how I get to die. I felt like an idiot. I took my one good unwrenched arm and I'm punching this creature. I'm sliding off its back. It's not going anywhere. It's circling faster and faster, faster and faster. And I realized after a minute to stop fighting it. Because I wasn't wading in the water. I wasn't treading in the water. I'm lying atop it on my back, being kept buoyant by this creature, thinking this is the nicest shark I've ever met. But it turns out it wasn't a shark at all. It turns out that there was a man on the bridge named Morgan who saw me in the water. He was there on that bridge that day with his mom. And he saw me on a news program a year later. And on the news program, of course, I said I thought there was a shark beneath me in the water. Well, the news program went viral online before viral was cool. One man's letter stuck out of all the rest, Morgan's. And he said, and I quote, Kevin, I'm so very glad you're alive. I was standing less than 2 feet away from you when you jumped. Until this day, watching this show, no one would tell me whether you lived or died. It's haunted me until now. By the way, there was no shark, like you mentioned you thought there was on the show, but there absolutely was a sea lion. The people above looking down believed it to be keeping your body afloat until the Coast Guard boat arrived behind you. Now you can call that whatever you want. Everybody has a different perspective on this issue, but God saved my life that day.
That was a prayer answered.
That was a prayer answered. Multiple prayers answered.
Did you lose consciousness?
No. Fully conscious and aware the entire time.
And in pain.
And in excruciating physical pain, which I live with today.
Tell us about that pain.
Yeah, I mean...
The physical pain.
Look, with my smiles and everything, you can't tell I'm in pain. I don't show it. I'm used to it. It's part of the deal. I need no pity for it. I take no meds for it. I did this to myself. I have to take responsibility for my actions. Mm-hmm. And the pain I experience is excruciating. Sometimes I shake about it, and my body shakes. I can't control it. I have nerve pain, nerve damage. Sometimes I'll just collapse to the ground because I can't move. My body fails me. Lucky the last few times that's happened, I've been sitting down, so didn't have much of an impact. But I've fallen to the ground, hit my head. It's been bad. But I get to have that pain because I exist. Where 23 years ago, I should have died. I get to be here. And getting to be here is a privilege and a gift no matter the pain I'm in. Getting to meet the Todu Guam Foundation and Lena and Dennis and their daughter Ashley and their entire team is a gift.
They're wonderful people.
Getting to meet you and be here with you on your show and reach your audience is a gift. This almost didn't happen. Getting emotional now, and I don't always get emotional during these things because I'm used to this conversation, but today's been hard. Today's been hard because when you go places and you tell people your stories, they tell you theirs. And you have to find a way to compartmentalize all of that pain. Today we got 3 girls to counseling. 3 girls that were in an exorbitant amount of pain. And they were bold enough and brave enough to come up to me after my talk and tell me their story. On the first day I was here, one of the students wrote to me on social media and said I was going to take my life today. But now I know I can cope with my pain. I'll be here tomorrow. Who can ask for a better life? I'm the luckiest guy on the earth. I get to travel the world with people like Lena and Dennis and Ashley and you and share a story that impacts lives. In 23 years, I've gotten hundreds of thousands of messages in different ways from people that say that this story saved their life. Nonsense. I'm not a savior. I have no God complex. I'm a conduit. I give a message. People go home. They do the work. They save themselves. Give yourselves credit. You saved your life. You just heard something that inspired you maybe, that motivated you to do something different than you did the day before. Stay here. Fight to be here. You're worthy. You matter. You're beautiful. You're supposed to be here until your natural end. 1 in 400 trillionth of a chance to exist. I said to every audience while here, at the end of the day, at the end of the talk, I said, I'm grateful for every place I get to go because I didn't build it yet. Here we are together. I'm grateful for everything I get to do because this almost didn't happen. But most importantly, and I'll say it to you, Troy Torres, I'm greatly appreciative as I live in the here and now to be with you right now. You're my gift today.
Thank you.
That's it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, come
I
on.
appreciate you.
People forget to be grateful to others just for their presence. Just for their presence. Just for being in the room. Thanks, Zach. You know what I mean? Gratitude and resilience have proven to be scientifically the 2 most proven factors to keep people away from suicide. If you can hold gratitude inside immense pain, you can be resilient from it and you can survive it. I live with chronic thoughts of suicide, Troy.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah. They plague me.
What do you do?
They're insidious. They come into your mind, and scientifically they loop in your brain. And then you become this machine that self-loathes, right? I still deal with that. I'm not recovered. I'm not well. I live in recovery each and every day. I fight to be here. I fight to exist. Because I get to. And those chronic thoughts that I've learned to express two techniques for 23 years to stay alive. I taught them to myself. I teach them to the world. Can I share them with you?
Yes, please. I was going to ask you what they were.
1, whenever I'm suicidal, the first thing I do is find a mirror. The first thing I do is find a mirror. A reflective piece of glass even, I look in that reflective piece of glass or that mirror, and I say, my thoughts don't, or I say, your thoughts don't have to become your actions. They can simply be your thoughts. I repeat it as many times as I need to. The second thing I do is I turn to anyone in front of me, and if I was suicidal right now, I would tell you, Troy. I'm not, but if I was, I'd say 4 simple but very effective words. I need help now. If I did that to you, Troy, what would you do?
I'd ask you how I can help you.
You would ask me how you can help me. Lena, if I said I need help now, what would you do?
Same. Ask you how I can.
You'd find a way to help me. You'd find a way to help me. And people go, okay, well, you know, I don't have a support network. Nobody wants to help me. Then you find a complete stranger and you walk up to them and you say, I need help now. And they're going to say, what do you mean, kid? And you say, I'm suicidal. And it's not always going to be the first to 5th to 10th person you turn to that's going to get your back, because not everybody is willing, able, or understanding enough to empathize with that kind of pain. But by the sheer probability of the number of people you turn to, someone will get your back. Heck, all you got to do sometimes is walk into a church. They will definitely get your back.
Yeah.
Whether you belong to that church or not, they will be there for you.
Yeah.
There are people in this world that are called to service, that will respond accordingly and make sure you are safe even from yourself as often as you need it.
And we have services and resources on both
You
the
do.
local and national
You do.
level. We have, what is the phone number? The
988 number.
The 988 number. You just dial 988 and
Somebody will
someone
be
gets
there.
on the phone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someone will be there for you, and will have a very caring voice, and may offer some gratitude
Yeah.
for the life that you have.
Right.
Yeah.
What can you say to parents of middle school, high school, young adult kids who have just been difficult, have just been, they haven't been diagnosed yet, but they probably have something that they don't want to face, or just maybe haven't recognized that there is a mental health disorder that needs to be addressed, maybe even needs medication? What do you say to parents, especially understanding that we have a culture of silence here, where
Yeah.
sometimes it's shameful
Yeah.
to have mental health disorder
Yeah.
in the family?
Along with pain being universal, the culture of silence in this world is universal for many different cultures. I'm Mexican, I'm black, I'm Arawak Indian, I'm Portuguese, among other things, I'm Jamaican. In those cultures, you stay quiet. Guam is not too separate from the rest of the world. This is common in some cultures all around the world, certainly in indigenous cultures. It's very common. Be quiet, do what you're told, do your work, get to the next day. Parents of Guam, Guamanians, and everybody else in the Marianas who are watching. If you don't know how to empathize with your child who is having behavioral issues due to brain pain or potential mental crises, try to remember when you were a child and you were having brain pain and potential mental crises. Try to not distance yourself from your inner child. You've been through hell. I'm sure of it. You've gone through hardship. I know it. Remember that time. Equate it to your children. Look up the definition in the dictionary of empathy. And just like you want to build resilience for your kids, build that empathy to create that trust in your family, so that when your child fears telling you something so deep and so dark and so hurtful, instead of not telling you, you're the first person they turn to. So they don't have to turn to drugs or alcohol or promiscuous behavior or something very negative or horrible or hurtful or violence or criminal activity. Turn to your child starting today, not tomorrow, Not the next day, not the next month or the next year. Turn to your children starting today and say, from this day forward, I'm an open book. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to judge you for it. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to listen with the intent to understand, not to respond or get angry about it. Whatever you're going through, my child, I will always love you. I will always be there for you. I will always have your back. When that shift happens in a household, lives can be saved.
Lena, are you in the Todu Guam Foundation seeing a good portion of your clients having this issue of this sort of breakdown in communication in the household that causes things to just sort of fester?
Absolutely.
What is it like?
When we first started this program, I have to tell you, so our team got trained, right? And training, but when you're actually out there in the field, it's a whole different world. So I remember the first week of them being out on the field and coming back with the papers from the students expressing or being ashamed to express or being worried that it's going to be kept safe. And it's like, how do we deal with this now, right? And but even just the level that we come across was a little bit eye-opening for us, right? Yeah. We start in the elementary, we do middle and high school, and it doesn't really matter, to tell you the truth. Surprisingly, you get them at all levels. And but I say because there's a lot of talk about it now, I think kids are hopefully realizing that there's help there available for them. And consistency, being a little bit more consistent. Our program is in the schools, right? And so because of that, the kids have created a trust, right? They've identified, our team, and they've created a trust, and so they open up more, and that gives them access to the resources to get more help. And so that's all we can do, every day. I always tell them, I say, like, if you go in with the open heart and an open mind, then you'll be able to help, even if it's just one person. It could be frustrating, right? It's overwhelming sometimes when there's a lot. And today I was talking with some of the organizations that actually offer counseling services and behavioral health. And I just say, to them that actually have to go through the counseling with the kids, my hat's off to you, because it could be draining. We only get pieces of it, right? We only get the initial contact, but then they have to have a little bit more intervention, and so it does take a lot. And when you pour out, you need to get refilled. Yeah. And it's important. You're right. Brain health is absolutely important. But it's resources like this, being able to have Kevin here and have students hear his story and hopefully give him hope, right? For someone that actually went through the motion. He didn't just think about it and attempt it. He actually did it. But to have this greater purpose, to be here and continue. And at the end of every day, I go home and I say to my husband and I say to Ashley, I don't know how he does it. Because if I'm tired and I'm not even sharing a story, I'm just bringing him around and seeing him share his story and then getting the feedback. And if I'm drained, what more him or anybody else that has to tell their story, right, or come forward. It's a lot, but you're right. We just have to be thankful for being here, being grateful. And it's some of the things we teach, right? We teach the 24 character strengths, and gratitude is definitely a big one in there, and I think that's what helps us get through.
What portion of you mentioned thousands throughout the world who have attempted to die by suicide but survived the attempt, what portion of them, if you know the answer, were either high on drugs or drunk on alcohol when they made the attempt?
I don't know the stats. Are you aware of the stats?
No, I'm not.
One of the most common things I hear today from my mental health peers and advocates in the space and people who are, brain health, mental health professionals, is that there is a significant percentage, and I don't know the number, and I should, I'm sorry, but there's a significant percentage of dual diagnosis individuals who didn't initially have brain or mental health struggles, but they fell into addictions and alcohol, or both. They developed a co-occurring issue of a mental health problem.
That's interesting.
And then in that co-occurring issue, they attempt suicide or die by suicide. So it is very common. It's very common in foster care as well. I'm a foster child. I was in foster care in the beginning of my life. I don't know if you know this, but I was born in abject poverty in the Tenderloin in San Francisco, the worst neighborhood there then, worst neighborhood there today. My birth parents, as I'm adopted by a beautiful, loving, caring, giving family that saved my life, the Hines, my mom and dad, Pat and Debbie Hines. Shout out to Pat and Debbie Hines. They plucked me from obscurity and gave me the future that I needed to have to live this beautiful life. But my birth parents struggled every day of their life, and they had nothing and no one, and they had 2 infant boys they couldn't take care of, and we lived in and out of crack motels. These are places with concrete slab floors and box springs for mattresses that they would leave us lying on as infants to go do score or sell drugs.
The stuff you see in the TV shows.
The stuff you see in the TV shows, it was my life and my brother's life. We were born 10 months apart. That's not a very good gap, 9 months to make a baby. But we were ripped from that home because of that neglect. My parents didn't give me up, didn't give my brother up. We were taken from them and placed in foster care and bounced around from home to home. And we were supposed to be adopted together, but we both got bronchitis and he died.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll say a prayer for him.
Thank you. And his name is Jordash. And he looked just like me with blonde curly hair. And I know I didn't know him, but I miss him every day. There's a lot of abuse and neglect on this island.
There is.
And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying I met 3 girls today that were going through it. In one school. A good school. I don't want to shift blame or put blame or put a negative spot on people, but I want to say this. Hurt people hurt people. If you're hurting someone you love, know this. You're 1,000 times greater than the worst thing you've ever done. Find a way to control your issues, to change them, to shift them, and to build a new relationship with your children so you can heal them. Let's talk about the men of Guam. The middle-aged men that are dying at a rampant amount of suicide in this country. Why?
Why?
Because for centuries, from the men that raised them, they were told to be quiet in the face of their pain. I'm looking at you, fellas. I'm 41 years of age. I'm right here with you. Stop hurting yourselves. You're beautiful just as you are. You're meant to be here until your natural end, no matter what you've done to anyone. Suicide is not the answer to your problem. It is the problem. Suicidal ideations are the greatest liars we know. Don't listen to them. You don't have to. Your thoughts don't have to become your actions. Do the work. Put in the effort. Change your brain so you can change your life. You want to know how to change your brain? You can go to Google or YouTube University right now, free of charge. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. You can go to YouTube University right now and learn everything you need to know, even if you can't afford clinical care, of how to change your brain, to change your life, to change your family's life. And you can survive.
Thank you for bringing that up, that part about changing your family's life. Because if there's something that will drive a person in the midst of, sorry, it's not COVID, I swear it's anyway. If there's something that will drive the average islander to, I'm so sorry, we don't have tissue.
It's okay.
Zach, do you have any tissue over there? To drive the average islander to just come out of a rut and stop doing things that are harmful to themselves it's this idea that they have to do something for their family.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful tool here on the islands.
It's a motivator.
Oh yeah. And you've seen people get off of alcohol addiction, drug addiction, go get the help that they need to address their ADHD or their bipolar disorder simply because they want to do something for their family. Yeah. And so, speaking of the islands, is there a way? Are you going to come back to the Marianas, by the way? Because
absolutely,
as soon as I can.
I think
it's not a one and done. You know,
Okay.
like we've had these talks and just the impact that he's had, and so we said we can't just have him come here and here today, gone tomorrow, because we just did it and that's it. And so we're definitely talking with him to be sure that it can be a partnership, right? And have him come more frequently. We are a bit of ways, right? Three plane rides, 24 hours. But it's well worth it, I would have to say. Yeah.
One of the reasons I'm asking is, yes, we do want him to come back to Guam and Margaret, but we got to bring him to the CNMI.
Right. And we were talking about that a little bit earlier. So it's definitely something that we'll sit down and make sure happens in the near future.
I hope so. I hope maybe we can connect with the Palacios administration up there or the Senator Babalta over in the CNMI Senate to make this happen, because, and this is just some information for you about the sort of situation they have up there. I mean, if you've seen the lack of services that we have here, we only have one psychiatrist, I found out today. Consider this. Veterans, combat veterans, war veterans, staying, thousands of them in Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. Many of them fly to Guam every week just to get services here. This is a back and forth sort of thing, and those are the veterans who recognize that there's something that they need to fix, and that they need help. Imagine everybody else who's not getting those services.
I always say the need is so much greater than the availability of services, but little by little, one step at a time, I think we can make a difference.
You can be a conduit there as well.
I want to be. I absolutely want to be. And to the people of CNMI who are in pain and struggling, to the veterans specifically of CNMI and all around the world, in all the armed forces and the sections of the military, you have a different set of skills that leads you to a life that can create an exorbitant amount of emotional and mental and brain pain. And that's another culture of itself. That's a little societal culture of silence. And, if we can find a way to reach you and let you know how much we care about you and that you matter to us, you matter to me. I know I don't know you. I know you're just meeting me through this lens. But you mean the world to me because you're human and so am I. And I travel the world talking to military bases and veterans all the time, veterans hospitals all the time, trying to reach people in that kind of pain, living with PTS or PTSD and struggling with a tragic amount of hardship. But whatever it is you're going through, if you find a way to believe that you can survive, to believe that the pain doesn't have to defeat you, instead it can build you brick by brick from the ground up to make you stronger than ever. But more importantly, veterans, if you find a way to unsilence your pain and recognize that your pain too is valid, it's worthy of our time and others, and it matters because you do.
This has been just very educational and emotional as well, this interview. Before I let you go, there's one thing I wanted to ask you. Many times, I myself, I'm sure other people, in the midst of our lives and everything that's going on today, right now, and everything that we're holding on to about what happened earlier today or last week or the home that I have to go to that I'm dreading, etc., right? It's very hard to see the blessings in front of us, what it is that we have to be grateful for, what it is that is just good, even if it seems bad.
Yeah.
What advice can you give to our audience to help explain to them, to help them see
Yeah.
their blessings right now in this moment.
Yeah. If you look at things as good and bad, every time you feel that bad, it will defeat you. It will destroy you in a small or large way. If you look at things as it happened, I can move forward. Maybe you don't move on from what you struggled from, but you can look to the living, those who still remain, and move forward. And you say it's not bad, it's just a part of the deal. That's my whole thing. Whenever I struggle, whenever I hurt, whenever I'm in immense pain, it's part of the deal. And I get to deal with it. I get to be here. And getting to be here is a privilege and a gift no matter the pain I'm in. It's not good or bad. It just is. It just is. Which means you can sit with yourself, accept yourself for who you are, change the negative things that exist in your life and your family's life, and when you need to, you can just be. Just be. One of the things I do to help keep me from thinking in that way, good or bad, is I use transcendental meditation. Every single day, I wake up before I'm supposed to go to work, go to do whatever I'm supposed to do. I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes. Before dinner, I meditate for 10 to 20 minutes. When I'm in front of an audience, I do a silent meditation in my head wherever I am. Even if someone's talking right to me, even if my eyes are open, I'm doing the breathing and I'm doing my personal mantra to get myself psyched up to be able to handle what's coming my way. There is no good and bad. It's a matter of perspective. It's in your head. Change your perspective, change your heart, change your mind. Live free today with the knowledge that you can survive any situation that comes your way, no matter how difficult, no matter how abrupt the hardship that comes your way. Think about all the people in prison right now. Nobody talks about that. The people in prison right now who were guilty of a crime or crimes, people forget they're human beings too. They have feelings and emotions, and they are stuck. And they are forgotten.
But they're moving forward.
But they're moving forward every day. And we have to remember there's a lot of prisoners in there that have repented and found redemption, gotten their education, their GED, their diploma, and they're doing the work. They're meditating. And some of them in those prisons feel free as a bird. If a person locked up for life can feel that they're free, you here in Guam or in CNMI can too. Look at the water. Feel the air. If you don't like rain, next time I want you to think about appreciating it.
I love the rain.
Because it's going to be gone in 5 minutes.
Now I kind of feel bad. I can't remember the last time I got into our beaches. I got to make that a point.
Right.
This has been, motivational is not even, doesn't even begin to describe it. I loved this conversation.
Thank you, brother.
So much. I love this so much. Please come back.
Promise.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
At 6:30 tonight.
Right,
6:30
tonight we have his film screening. It's going to be The Ripple Effect, by the way. It's going to be at the GPO theaters, 6:30 p.m. We did the admission was free, and we put it on our social media page and our website, and it's sold out.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay, never mind. Forget what I just said. It's okay. Yeah. Catch it next time.
But we hope to be able to screen it again. Because we actually do have a lot of people that we're trying to get through and get into the tickets. So for those of you that have gotten your your ticket confirmation. It is going to be at the GPO theaters. It was originally supposed to be at the Guam Museum, and we had a venue change. So 6:30 tonight, GPO theaters. We'll see you there if you got a ticket, and if not, we're working on having another showing. Yeah, absolutely.
And next time, hopefully, we have Margaret on the show. I wish you guys could meet Margaret.
Margarita, she's wonderful. Can I just say something to Margaret right now? Margaret, honey, if you're watching, I love you. You're the greatest gift I've ever received. You've saved my life on more times than I can count on my hands. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, I think, that will ever happen to me, besides faith in God. I love you. Thank you. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am today.
These guys are on the road 270 days out of the year.
Yes.
They
There's
don't
only
even
360 days.
And there's only 360. They don't even have time to get a dog.
We had a dog when we had slowed down at one point. Oh, Max.
I heard.
He was a Shar-Pei. All those wrinkles look just like my dad.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Can
you.
I give you a hug?
Yeah, of course.
Thank
Come
you
here.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lena.
Yeah.
All right. We love you, Guam, and CNMI, and everyone else watching. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Troy Torres for Kandit News. Good night.
Good night.
Kandit News will soon be reaching a milestone 5th year since it was established in 2018. We are a platform for advocacy journalism. We expose corruption, fight against the sexual exploitation of children, and tend to support the underdog, the underprivileged, and those trying to find a path from addiction. With over 50,000 followers, we offer advertising opportunities for both large and small businesses. We offer competitive rates that are often well below what other advertising agencies charge their clients. Give us a call today.